Use my straight grip to slide his hand down below the line of his chest. I bring my knee up to my shoulder, and I make sure the back of my knee covers Ant's tricep above the elbow. I'm going to use my left heel to back heel until my heel touches his body. Now I actually like to cross my ankles while my arm is still stuck in here. Okay? So I push the arm down, cover, heel to the body. If the heel's not on the body, when I let go, he'll swim the arm. So I want to connect the heel to the body. I like to cross my ankles, and now I squeeze my ankles to make sure everything stays stuck. And now we have the benefit of knowing when we're going to loosen up. So what I do is I very quickly relax my legs, I relax my left arm, and I pull my left shoulder away from my knee, away from his shoulder. Once my arm comes out, I cinch down with my legs again. I don't want to have a situation where I go loosen my legs to pull my arm out and he also pulls his arm out. Okay? This gets a little tricky on this side because we're trapping both of our arms. I'm trapping Ant's arm and I'm trapping my own arm. And I come here. So the tricky part comes now where I have to very quickly relax, limp arm, and cinch. Okay? But now we have a problem. I took my control arm out. I no longer have a control arm on Ant. So my control of him is going to be very not great. He's going to be able to start to put his shoulders on the floor. Yep, exactly. He's going to start to turn, put his back on the mat, and then things are going to start to go bad from here. So in order to reassert control, I'm going to insert a new control arm. I'm going to go across. I'm going to get this single cross grip. I'm going to pull his elbow up off the floor. And even his shoulder. I pull his elbow and his shoulder up off the floor. With his shoulder off the floor, I bring my arm underneath, and I make a pass off. And now I have a new control hand. Okay, so now when Ant tries to put his back on the mat again like he did before, he cannot. The last problem we have is that I no longer have the head trap. Remember that for the rear naked choke, I need his head trapped between my head and my choking arm. Right now, if I were to put a choke on from here, I don't have any coverage of Ant's left artery over here. So there's no choke. So I need to fix that. I'm going to use a head pummel. I'm going to physically reach around, grabbing his head and pulling his head to the other side of my head here. Now I have the head trap. Now when I go through, I get a nice tight connection to the neck. I can put the choke on, and it's done. So one more time from the choking side. We're here. I take my control grip. I pull his hand down below his hip, below the line of his chest, down to the stomach. I trap above the elbow, and I cross my ankles. Now, in one very quick moment, I relax, limp arm, and cinch. Now I need to set a new control hand. I find the wrist, pulling everything up, and I pull my arm underneath his shoulder and I set a new control hand. Now I have to move the head. And now I have everything in place for me to go through and get my finish. Alright, so those are the ins and outs of the specific grip fighting strategies that I'll use to actually trap both of my partner's arms and leave me with a free choking hand. Okay? We're going to be at next with this. Penetrating the jaw and finishing. Yeah. So now, next we need to focus on penetrating the jaw. Okay, we can use a few different methods with this, flattened fist method or knife hand method. When it comes time to penetrate the jaw, understand that there's not a lot of space between the chin and his chest. When my opponent tucks the chin to the chest, it's very hard to get my thick forearm underneath the chin. So we're going to use the idea of a knife's edge to penetrate underneath the jaw. The same way that a knife has a thicker side that we call the spine, and then going down from the spine down toward the blade, it gets narrower and narrower until it has a razor's edge, which is very thin on one side. That razor's edge is going to be able to pierce and begin to split the two items from each other. And then we push the rest of the knife through, so we move from the thin razor's edge, and as we move that razor's edge through first, and we continue to push that knife down, eventually that item gets split until we can get the thick spine of the knife in. All right, so we start by putting the knife in with a thin razor's edge, and eventually, by starting with the razor's edge, we'll eventually get to getting the entire thickness of the spine of the knife into the cut. We're going to use the same idea when it's time to penetrate underneath our opponent's jaw. We're going to try to use very small, skinny surfaces, maybe like our fingertips, or pointed knuckles with a flattened fist, and we're going to use these finer points to first pierce and penetrate underneath the jaw, and then we're going to work our way through until we get our entire arm, until we can throw the whole arm underneath the jaw. Okay? To demonstrate this, I'm going to have Ant coming up close to the camera. Move up to that line here. Perfect. Now, Ant's going to tuck his chin to the chest. I have the arms out of the way, right? I have the arms trapped with my legs, so he's not going to use his hands to defend at all. If I come here and I try to use even the thin edge here at the chin, tuck your chin nice and tough, I can't get underneath. We're going to start our journey of getting underneath the jaw back here at the corner of the jaw. I'm going to have you turn to the side a little bit. Every jaw, just look ahead. Every jaw comes back, and if you follow your jawbone, you'll actually find a corner where it starts to come up, right here. And it's always right underneath the ear. Okay, so right underneath the ear, there's like a little crevice, a little valley. You follow that valley down, and that ends up turning into the corner of the jaw. Okay, so when Ant tucks the chin, I'm going to use a flattened fist where I use my knuckles. Sometimes I'll reinforce the knuckles by taking my own thumb here, my own thumb knuckle, and I'll put my thumb knuckle underneath if I need to reinforce to make a nice reinforced penetrating edge. Okay. Sometimes if I go in with just a true flattened fist like this and I meet resistance, sometimes that wrist or those knuckles will start to flatten and be compressed. So sometimes I like to put a sturdy kind of a reinforcer, my thumb is a reinforcer there underneath, so that when I meet resistance, the knuckles don't collapse like they did before when the thumb wasn't underneath. Okay, I hope that makes sense. There's other ways to do this too. Sometimes I can place the pad of my thumb against the side of my index finger, and I'll use this knuckle, this thumb knuckle, and I'll use that to penetrate behind and work my way underneath the jaw. The idea is the same, is that we need to use a thin, hard edge to first work our way underneath the corner of the jaw here, and then we'll work our way through the rest of the way. Okay? So I'll show it from this angle and we'll go square on. So I'm here, Ant's going to tuck his chin. I'm going to use that reinforced knuckle. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to find behind the ear with my knuckles. Now that I'm behind the ear with my knuckles, I'm going to trace that valley down until I start to come around the corner of the jawbone. Once I feel the corner of the jawbone, I'm going to follow the line of the jaw until I get my hand underneath the neck. The very moment your hand penetrates underneath the neck, you're going to shoot your elbow into position. Here. And then we're ready for the choke. Let's face the camera. So I'm here, Ant's chin is tucked. Once again, I'm going to use either like so, where I have my knuckles reinforced by my thumb, Or I could also reinforce my thumb knuckle by putting the pad of my thumb against my index finger. It's all good. They're all fine. And I find that valley below the ear. And I follow that down, putting pressure on, coming around the corner. Keep your chin tucked. Coming around the corner of the jaw. And I use that to start to penetrate and lift. Lift the jaw. Once I get my hand underneath, I'm going to shoot everything through until I get the crook of my elbow to line up with the trachea. Okay? We can also do this with fingertips sometimes. Sometimes if you have strong enough, stiff enough fingers, I can go through with my fingertips. I'll go just like right here. Once again, finding the corner of the jaw, he tucks his chin, and sometimes I can come through with my flattened hand here. Now there are other times where I'll have to finger walk and finger crawl. Sometimes I'll come through, I'll penetrate, and I'll get here and I won't be able to work my way through. So at a moment like this, I'm going to use a finger crawling method. He's going to keep his chin tucked because I can't go through, and I'm going to walk my hand around and through until I get the crook of my elbow tight to the trachea. And once we have the neck penetrated, now we're ready to finish. Okay? So we're going to talk about finishing the choke here. Let's just talk about the basic rear naked choke finish for now. So I can come up with a full rear naked. So when I'm here, I got this grip, I come out, I go hand over hand, wrist over wrist, and then I lock the rear naked choke into place. And now to finish, I'm going to rotate, I'm going to pull my elbow back over his shoulder as I squeeze my arms for a nice tight finish. So there is a squeezing element, but there's also a rotational element. If I just squeeze that, well, that will sometimes be enough. But if we have Ant at this point, maybe he freed his hands, he dig both of your fingers in there. Yep, just like that. Pull down, Ant, nice and hard. Hard, hard. Defend the choke, don't let me choke you. And I'm gonna squeeze for the choke, don't let me choke you. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes try to squeeze, sometimes he can defend. Once again, hang down, don't let me choke you.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna pull my right elbow back over the shoulder, don't let me choke you. Strong, strong, strong. I pull my elbow. That rotational element of the elbow pulling back over the shoulder mimics like a gi choke. Okay, so we're here, we pull that elbow back, and we get like a gi choke effect where we rip that elbow back over the shoulders. That rotational element is a nice way to put some extra finishing power onto the choke. So that's with our full rear naked choke finish with a full figure four. Now sometimes, go back to the camera. I have the arm strapped, he tucks the chin. I use my knuckles at the corner of the jaw, underneath the ear. I work my way through, and I slide everything into place. Now sometimes, you don't want to let this grip go. Sometimes if I let this grip go and I go back for the choke, people who are crafty can come up, they'll cover the thumb, and then they'll pull down over the thumb, and they'll take that hand position away. So again, I go here. Now when I go for the finish, Ant is going to pull my hand away, and I lose it. And then he tucks his chin again, and now we have to start all over. So sometimes it might behoove you to do a one-arm finish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck my hand back behind the shoulder, back behind the neck, and anchor my hand in place with my own chin. And now I'm going to lift my right elbow, and just like I showed before, I'm going to pull my right elbow back over the shoulder with that rotational element. And we can finish a one-handed choke. Okay, so I don't even need to let this hand go. I can sit here and I can finish a one-handed rear naked. So that's a one-handed finish, which is not quite as strong as a two-handed finish, but it's strong enough to get the work done, to get the job done oftentimes. Okay. Finally, let's talk about the idea of a mandible strangle. For moments when you cannot get underneath the jaw. Okay? Once again, keeping you to the camera. Now there are times your opponent's just really good at blocking and shutting out your jaw penetration. You can actually choke somebody through their own jawbone. The way it happens, can I have you turn side on for this hand? Just for a moment. Look straight ahead. So if I can't get underneath the chin, the way the mandible strangle works is it takes the jawbone and it pulls the jawbone back into the person's own arteries, and the jawbone will actually close off the person's arteries, or not the airway and the arteries, and you'll actually choke them with their own jawbone. Now, please understand that this is a clean choke using the jawbone. I do not want you guys mangling each other's lips and teeth with this. I do not want you just wrapping a choke over the face and just squeezing over the lips, squeezing over the teeth. You're going to run afoul a lot of your training partners that way. You're going to take them off, and they're not going to want to train with you. Okay, we want nice, clean chokes that are not mangling our opponent's lips, that are not grinding their lips into their teeth, and they're not going to make them bleed. Okay, so the way we do this is we make sure we focus on the jaw. How do we do that? By making sure our elbow is glued to the sternum. If my elbow is up off his sternum and he tucks his chin, I'm going to be over the nose, I'm going to be over the mouth, I'm going to be over the lips. But when he tucks his chin and I take my own elbow and I touch his sternum, now I know I can be on the jawbone. Okay? That's how I know I'm not going to be on the lips. Now from here, let's rotate now. I want once again the pocket of my elbow to line up with the corner of his chin. Okay, so my elbow is going to be against his sternum, not up, against the sternum, and lined up with the corner of his chin. So that my bicep is making contact on the right side of his jaw, and my forearm is making contact on the left side of the jaw. Okay? Now from here I'm going to put in my rear naked choke. I put in hand over hand, wrist over wrist, and I slide everything into place. Now for the finish, I'm going to keep my elbow piercing into the sternum to make sure I don't come up into the nose, into the mouth, so I keep driving that elbow down. And then very slowly, I'm going to use my bicep and my forearm to pull Ant's chin back into his own neck. So Ant, can you breathe for me through your nose? Good, just keep loudly breathing through the nose. Keep, go. Now I was doing it very, very slowly there, so you guys could hear the difference in the airway. Okay? I could have gone faster, I could have put this on a little faster, a little harder, but I want you guys to hear how that airway gets affected as that jawbone gets pressed into the trachea. Okay? At first you could hear the air was flowing freely through Ant's nose, and then as I was putting that squeeze on, you heard it begin to wheeze. And Ant tapped out when he was wheezing, but if I would have kept squeezing, eventually you would have heard that air shut out, or just shut off completely. Okay, let's do this one more time. Imagine I trapped the arms with the straitjacket, Ant tucked his chin, and I'm struggling to get underneath the jaw. If I'm struggling to get underneath the jaw, you can just go right to a mandible strangle. I need to keep my elbow against the sternum. Don't have your elbow up. We don't want to be on the lips and the teeth. We want to be on the bone of the jaw. We don't want to come up onto the lips. We want to be down here. Okay? So my elbow stays tight to the sternum, and I line the crook of my elbow up, the pocket of the elbow up, with the point of his chin. Now I withdraw my hand and I put on a full rear naked. Once again, please. Yep, just keep that going, nice and loud. And that choke goes on. Now, Ant, how are your lips and your teeth in that? The lips and teeth not affected? What can you describe? What you?
It's like my chin choking my neck out.
Yeah, because your jawbone here being pushed back into the jaw, right? So that's another great effective way to apply the choke, even when you're struggling to get underneath the chin. So now let's look at how this might play out in a, not in a live situation, but let's start all the way from the back. We're going to go through our straitjacket, trapping the arms, various methods. We're going to work our way underneath the jaw and showing either one-handed finishes or full figure four finishes, okay? So let's face this way, so we fall on one side. So I'm here, and Ant's got this grip, okay? We're down, and now stripping his defensive grip here, I get this. He's got this grip here. I might bring this down, trap his arm, like so. He's going to tuck his chin. Now from a tucked chin, I make those reinforced knuckles. I come back, I find the pocket, or the ear, and I find that pocket just below the ear. He's going to keep that chin tucked, and I'm going to find and follow the corner of the jaw. And once my hand penetrates, my elbow slides around the corner. Now from this side, it might be hard for me to extract my hand. So from right here, I may opt for a one-handed finish. If I do want to extract my hand from here, the way that I do it is as Ant tries to free this arm, I put his hand on the floor and I rock forward onto my elbow. Now that I'm on my elbow, I can release the hand and pummel my hand free. And I can slide into a full figure 4 rear naked choke. Okay? So that was one option where I used double straight grips. Let's do it again. We'll use some other options this time. Go down. He's got this grip. I use my finger to finger grip to roll his wrist, defeating that grip there. Now he's got this. Maybe I have to tract, make a pass off. He goes to free his grip with your left hand. I go to double cross. I trap the arm. Make a pass off to trap the second arm. He's going to tuck his chin. Maybe I'll use a knife hand this time. He tucks his chin nice and hard. I'm going to use that knife hand, trying to follow underneath, sliding through. Now from here, maybe I use a one-handed finish. Okay? Let's say you can't get a one-handed finish, or it's tough, and let's say you're not able to sit up and extract this arm. Sometimes I'll just wait for my opponent to push the action to the other side. And when he pushes the action to the other side, now it becomes very easy for me to extract this arm and shoot my rear naked choke in, and I can finish. Let's try it from the choking side. Let's face the other side of the side. We're here on the choking side. Come down. Once again, he's got 2-on-1. I'm going to use my same grip break. I didn't talk about this in the video, but I've been showing it in classes. If he has 2-on-1 and good strong grip, use this thumb too. This thumb. And I can't get this hand away. I go finger to finger. I pull his own wrist against his chest, low on the chest, and then I start to squish the back of his hand against his own chest. And there's almost like a small wrist lock kind of motion where it's not comfortable. It won't submit him, he won't tap to it, but it'll get him to release that grip. Or it'll at least weaken the grip, where if he doesn't release it himself, it'll be weak enough that I can pop it off. Now from here, I have to use my straightjacket mechanics on the choking side, which means now I have to go through and reinsert a new control hand, which means now I need to pummel his head, so I have the head trap. Now from here, Ant tucks the chin. Maybe I'm going through, maybe I'm struggling to get underneath the jaw. Maybe he's just really good at keeping that jaw tight to his chest. So now I bring my elbow tight to his sternum, I come around the corner, just like so. He's got that chin tucked, so I'm over the jawbone. From here, I rock up to my elbow, take my hand out, I shoot a full figure 4 rear naked, but his chin is in there. I'm just going to keep my elbow tight to the sternum, tuck your chin, breathe through your nose, and as he breathes, I'm going to apply that mandible strangle right over the tip of the jawbone, pushing the chin back into the trachea and back into the arteries. Guys, this accounts for probably most of my submissions. This straightjacket grip fighting, the ability to be, when you get on somebody's back, the ability to hand fight and trap the arms, trap both their arms, so they only have their chin to defend. That is a great way to start getting a lot of submissions from back control. Remember, when you get to somebody's back, there's a strong problem, a deficiency problem. They have more defensive tools than you have offensive tools. So as your opponents get better and better, you're going to have to make more and more use of the straightjacket in order to solve the deficiency problem. So they have no defensive hands, and you have a free choking hand. You're going to use that free choking hand to penetrate underneath the jaw and get to a finish. If at any point you cannot penetrate underneath the jaw, you can just cover the jaw, and you can choke them right through their own jawbone with the mandible strangle, using their own mandible to choke them. Guys, please make a concerted effort to get good at this grip fighting series. Again, straightjacket grip fighting accounts for more of my success from back control than anything else. My ability to systematically grip fight in ways that lead to my opponent having 2 trapped arms grant me a lot of success from back control. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. One last thing. When I get on somebody's back, as I'm first initially taking their back, oftentimes there'll be an opportunity to slide that choke into place immediately, right away. We call that the default principle. If at any point your opponent's chin comes this far away from their chest, 1 wrist width away from their chest, shoot that choking arm in place. But if you do not have that initial choke, if you take the back, you go for that initial choke and it's not there, stop fighting for the choke. Do not sit there and try to fight through your opponent's 2 defensive hands and their 1 chin trying to fight that choke. It's not going to work, not against anybody good. So if you take somebody's back and you don't get an immediate choke within the first 1 second, stop trying to choke them and start focusing your efforts on grip fighting. Okay, once you get good at grip fighting from the back and using that grip fighting to trap their arms with your legs, you're going to start getting a lot of submissions. Thanks for watching, guys.